The Warlock might be one of my favorite archetypes in all of fantasy, but I don't feel like a lot of games get it right. Howdy folks, my name is Sean. Welcome back to Delver. It might look a little different, but that's okay. Stay a little while, see if you like it. Today, I wanted to talk about Warlocks, and more specifically, the things that I love about Warlocks, as well as some of the problems that I have with Warlocks. The reason that I like the Warlock archetype so much in fantasy is because it's so diverse. You don't have to be, born with magical ability. You don't have to read and study in a college for years just to be able to cast simple spells. A Warlock is somebody willing and able to give up a part of themselves, some shred of their humanity or their essence or their soul, and give it to some cosmic deity so they can get like a morsel of supernatural power and ability. And that makes it one of the most interesting to players as well. A lot of the time I have people who want to play Warlocks simply because it is fun to engage with your patron on a more personal level. I guess that's the best way to describe it, because you're not a cleric, you're not devoutly following some sort of being, and you are not, a paladin who has sworn an oath. You are somebody who is dealing with a creature that is beyond your understanding, but it still can bend and churn to different whims at any given point. That's why I like Warlocks, and more specifically, I like Warlocks in media such as 𝐿ric of Melniboné, who's right there on that photo right there. Wanted to put him up in the background because he's really cool. There's something so unique about 𝐿ric and his story. For those that don't know, 𝐿ric of Melniboné is this man, or he's a prince from this violent, chaotic society called Melniboné, and they used to be the rulers of the world, but they have kind of shrunk in their dominion over the world in the past few centuries, and they are dragon riders. A lot of the inspiration, I believe, that goes into the Valyrians from A Song of Ice and Fire is from 𝐿ric of Melniboné, so if you like that, definitely give it a read. But 𝐿ric is a little bit different to his people. He's a little bit more cautious, a little bit more thoughtful. He's not as violent, but he is evil. Let's not mince words. He is a very evil character. And because of that, he makes an eldritch deal with the Lord of Chaos himself. And in this deal, for some supernatural insight and power, he is given a weapon, a sword that allows him to do supernatural things. He is a spellcaster himself as well, but the sword and the pact that he has with, I think it's Lord Arok, or Erox, one of the two. I stole the name for something a little while ago in my setting for ShadowDark, but we'll get to that in a minute. He makes this eldritch bargain, and because of that, he gets these powers and he goes on these quests. And if I'm not mistaken, little spoiler for the series, I believe at the end, he's betrayed by the sword and by his patron. It is not a loving relationship. He's being used in the same way that he was using the Lord of Chaos to further his own ends. And that's what I like about the Warlock. But when it comes to Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition, I feel like it falls short. This is just a critique of D&D 5e in general. I don't like when systems are really just, let's slap this basic ability on all of the different classes and kind of flavor it in a different way. That is spellcasting to me in 5e. I feel like adding way too much spellcasting to too many classes and subclasses has kind of watered down my enjoyment of the system when it comes to playing a Warlock or playing, an Eldritch Knight. That's not a critique of people who play it. I love D&D. I've played it for 10 years, but I've never really played a Warlock in totality because I'm not interested by the gameplay loop. It seems more just like a tiny wizard who focuses more on cantrips, and they get some eldritch boons and abilities that kind of, flavor them a little bit and give them some cool skills. But overall, they're just another magic user. And that kind of wariness of all of these different classes kind of being the same is something I brought into another system that I am a huge fan of, ShadowDark. It's a ShadowDark video again. I can't hype up ShadowDark enough. It's such a great system. If you haven't played it, please go get the quick start guide. And if you're in the market for something with ShadowDark and looking for a good way to jump in, may I recommend today's sponsor, Under the Shadow of HELFAST Keep. Did I read that right? Did I read it wrong? Oh, fuck. Under the Shadow of HELFAST SPIRE is a new zine coming out from Bob Worldbuilder himself. He asked me to talk about it on a video, and let me just be honest, I told him I don't want anything except a copy of it, and I've gotten this little promotional one, or the kind of the test copy, but I will be getting a full copy as well. But I'm not making any money off of this. I am just so unabashedly a fan of Bob and his work, especially in the ShadowDark system, that I think you should also check it out. There's probably a lot of things that I'm supposed to read here and talk about all the cool new classes. I think there's like 4 of them, and magic items and monsters. And of course, the HELFAST SPIRE, as well as I think it's the hold on, what's it called? There's the veil. The 𝐒𝐭 �Catacombs. There's just so much in this that it's hard to list it off of the top of my head, but genuinely, it is such a huge help. I'm actually incorporating some of the classes like the Mountaineer into my setting. So please, if you haven't already, go ahead and check it out. I think it releases today, the day I release this video. So go ahead and check it out. And of course, thank you again to Bob Worldbuilder. You're such a great creator. You bring so much light to this community, and you inspire me to keep making videos after months of not doing it. Let's not talk about that. But ShadowDark is genuinely just so unimaginably simple and amazing and cool. And the Warlock, I think, is one of my favorite pieces of game design to come out of it. See, I didn't want to incorporate all of these additional classes from the Cursed Scrolls, as well as the new Kickstarter campaign, into my setting because I thought the 4 main classes, Wizard, Fighter, Priest, and Thief, I thought those were enough to make interesting characters for the world. And while I think it did its job, when I started getting into the Cursed Scrolls, I eventually found the Warlock and all of these other classes, and I was blown away every time I read one. I would read one and I would go, I don't know. Here's what I expect it's going to be. And then every time it was something else that I wanted more and didn't realize. This one right here, the Cursed Scroll #1, is where you get the Warlock class for ShadowDark. And how I would describe it, I don't want to go too much into the detail of the class itself, because at the end of the day, I want you to be able to go and buy this Cursed Scroll zine and get the class for yourself. So I don't want to show it too much, but I do want to talk about my interpretation of it when I read it. I think the Warlock in ShadowDark is a little more focused on being the epitome of something. And I know that sounds a little weird, but what I mean is they're going to be the best at something. It doesn't have to necessarily be magic. In fact, the base class doesn't get any kind of spells. The only way that they can get spells is from the wizards list by following one of the patrons or taking boons from that patron when they level up. Overall, though, it seems that it's a little more focused on giving them abilities that they can use to influence the world around them. You could be a thief and be really good, but you could also be a warlock and try to be the best gentlemanly thief ever. You can increase your combat prowess and become not a fighter, but you could become a duelist and one of the best duelists in the land. That's what I love about this Warlock class. It doesn't tie you down to magic user. It says, what do you want to be and how do you want to get there? It's very customizable. It allows you to make this Eldritch deal with some sort of patron from the sheets or one that your DM creates on their own, and then allows you to become something great without tying you to fighter or priest or thief or wizard. You kind of dictate where you go and what you become at the end of the day. And I think that makes it almost kind of like a GURPS type character where you're picking and choosing. Now it is random when you level up, so it's not always a guarantee that you're getting what you want, but most of the time you're going to be getting something from a table that the table itself is something that you want to progress toward. And that's why I really like the Warlock in ShadowDark. And I'm sure other game systems do it well as well. But I guess this is less about the Warlock and more about adding spellcasting to everything in a system like 5e. ShadowDark doesn't seem to do that. In fact, I think I calculated it's like out of the 18 classes that do exist and will exist with the release of the new Kickstarter, I think it was only like 6 of them had magic. And when I went through these spell lists, what I found interesting is they pulled from other lists, but remarkably, they have their own spells, their own flavors, their own abilities that they get to pull from as magic users. So even if you are playing a wizard and a seer, you're going to be getting completely different abilities based on the class you're playing, rather than kind of picking from a generalized list of magic spells. And some of them are crossed over, some of them aren't. This is more like, yeah, you are a seer, you're going to get these cool seer spells, and that's going to be how you play the game. At the end of the day, the Warlock class is just so unimaginably cool in ShadowDark. I love Warlocks. I have some critiques for the 5e version of the Warlock, but at the end of the day, it is still such a cool concept. And if you haven't played a Warlock before, I highly recommend it. It's such a good way to engage with the setting and your DM and the patron that you kind of form the bond with. That's my video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I know it's been a little while since I have made a video, but it's not because I don't want to. It's just I'm very busy in my work life as well as traveling with my wife. So please let me know if you like this video and you'd like to see more. I'm always happy to see people commenting and talking about the different things that we talk about in these videos. And have a great rest of your day.